Well, today we have one of the most profound revelations that I have been given. I am a prophet of God the Father of Jesus Christ, who came to earth in the flesh and whose spirit is made incarnate through the Holy Spirit. And before I start this, I want to say that just like the video I made the other day about denominations, using any of this information to judge your neighbor is completely and absolutely inappropriate. God is the only one who truly can see into the heart of a man or a woman, and pride is not, well, just, anyway. Maybe you'll see what I mean when I'm done. Okay, so this is kind of complex, and I mean, technically, I am just giving a very general synopsis because we can't comprehend the layers of God and how long and how intense this has been throughout, well, not time, because time's not necessary, but anyway. Okay, so this is probably the most useful teaching I've been given in regards to figuring everything else out. But please try and listen to my words closely, because there are a couple absolutes in the universe, but when it comes to the workings of God, there are no absolutes. He is so obsessed with minutia and control and everything that what I'm saying are just general truths, but they're not the actual truth, because only God can know that. Okay, so this video is about where the nations came from and how that is in alignment with where religions came from. This is big. So we're going to use the example of, say, a solar system. I still have that mosquito bite. It's huge. We're going to use an example of the solar system, and I'm just going to say, for example, the Milky Way. We can observe, now that we have scientific advancements, we can observe that there are different solar systems out in space. And those different solar systems kind of have some kind of force of gravity that keeps them where they're at. So he kind of designed the solar system on all the billions of human souls. Well, there were angel souls, there were animal souls. Like, so if you're new to my channel, God essentially had a big bang on day one, which was a long day. And when he had that big bang, he had to allow everything to settle, and he didn't know what he was going to be working with. He just knew that he had brought all the light that he could into essentially a ball of light, and then there was debris outside of his light, his consciousness. Now, nothing exists except God. So everything outside of God, the ball of light, was also God. But if you have light, that necessitates that there must be darkness. Everything has to have an opposite except God. Well, I mean, I guess you could say the darkness is the opposite, but he's all there is. And then there's the places where he's not. So he had his Big Bang, and all this debris was around, and it was chaos, just absolute chaos. And he waited and he waited and he waited and he watched and he observed, and he was kind of out there by himself because nothing could get close to him. If anything comes too close to his ball of light and it has any darkness in it, it can't handle the light. So he had to kind of stay back and just observe and then make decisions about what he was going to do with this huge mess. So he played around with different, essentially scientific principles, but they were heavenly. They're not anything we can understand. And he noticed that like was attracted to like, and that after a very, 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 very long time, all the little debris, which was made of part light and part darkness, all the little debris started to settle where it was most comfortable. And as it was settling, he would kind of imagine what was going on in each area. Now, there's several different dimensions, essentially. So when I speak of this, our human brain can only see like one big room with all these solar systems or billions of stars, trillions. Anything with a soul had some debris out there. And he started to notice that things were attracting each other. And eventually, after a very long time, he noticed that as things became attracted to each other, they would develop certain characteristics. And as this came about, the humans had more specific, characteristics than the other souls. And these are what eventually became the nations. So he had a group of souls. They didn't have a name yet, but he had a group of souls that he eventually named African. And a group of souls he eventually named European, Italian. So then in each grouping that would come together, then they would break down into smaller groups. So in the area of Europe, you might have the Spanish souls, the Italian souls, the British souls. But they were all in the area of Europe. He just named them these. Nothing existed. So as he found all the souls congregating in their most comfortable place, he then also started testing their righteousness, their light, their amount of light, and found that almost all groups had a mix of righteous, unrighteous, and go either way. The go either ways, depending on their circumstances and whatnot, they could be persuaded to go the wrong way or the right way. So each nation within it had essentially different countries, and he broke these down, and each country or nation had a different amount of people. So, for example, there weren't as many Native Americans as there were Europeans. So he had a different finite amount of souls to work with. You should be getting excited about now. If this is making sense to you, it's really pretty badass. So he has all these souls in these groupings, and then he noticed that the souls would follow a leader. They would be attracted to a certain light, or we could say planet, in their area. And in Europe, for example, those people were much more inclined to follow. Okay, so wait, that's where the different dimension comes in. You have the different nations, but then God put the souls through this thing where they were allowed to kind of be attracted to the larger light, or the more interesting light, the more powerful. It didn't have to be all light, but some souls have a lot of power inside them. And he kind of set the souls free to be attracted to essentially a shepherd. So in the Bible, where it says Jesus is our shepherd, he can take sheep from other shepherds. This is where this is all coming from. So a large 33% of the souls were attracted to Jesus. Well, not quite 33 yet. That's a second layer of the story. And each group, each nation then also settled down and essentially behaved differently around their shepherd. So, for example, for the souls following Jesus, there were some brave souls, and they ended up being African, who would stand around the perimeter and push back the darkness. They were very brave. They were essentially soldiers for Christ. And then you had the meeker, more less brave, I guess, souls like my own, that was as close to Jesus as I could get, because I couldn't handle that darkness. So each group kind of developed characteristics. And there were South Americans, all the nations had people that would follow Christ, some more than others. In addition, you had different nations that were... My dog's freaking out. Just a minute. What's going on? No, you need to wait. Come on out, Gatsby. We'll go for a walk in a bit. Just a minute. You gotta wait. Okay, sorry. So, I don't want to make this again. This is really hard on my brain. Primarily in different nations, but not always. There were different shepherds. For example, Buddha. Buddha was a shepherd. He was a light, but he was very close. Well, he was kind of in the realm of Jesus. But mainly Asian souls were slightly more attracted to Buddha than Jesus. They just felt that was kind of their frequency. And then you have groups in each nation, and it pretty much just breaks down with common sense. So in each nation, you have souls that are righteous and unrighteous. The righteous ones may have been an original follower of Jesus or one of the other 7 spirits of God, although they all converge with Jesus. The entire story, the entire story ends with Jesus Christ. So in the Bible, especially Revelations, but in other places, it talks about the 7 spirits of God. And these are spirits that he set down to propel this story forward. But the breakdown of souls was actually based on something. We're not all just a clean slate or a tabula rasa in Latin, my Latin knowledge. We're not a clean slate. We actually come from divine history. And just like with God, nothing is particularly better than any other, except that wickedness is wickedness, and wickedness is always despised by the Lord and feared by the light. It's insidious. It's insidious. So the darkness is it's bad. He's been starting to show me how dark matter is essentially, scientists are trying to figure out what it is right now, but that's essentially what we're fighting. And I think scientists think there's like 30.6% dark matter in the universe, but well, it's 33%. So anyway, I don't want to get off on that. So we have all these shepherds, and this is interesting, and let's take Scientology as an example. So God kind of set L. Ron Hubbard's soul out, and it attracted people. So they chose to follow L. Ron Hubbard rather than following the soul of Jesus. And the same holds true with Muhammad. The same holds true with the Hindus. That's a even bigger thing. The Hindus, the area of India was kind of full of chaos for a long time, and he set those souls, all the gods, and people would follow their chosen God, but it was under the guise of Hinduism. And that's what people do with Hindus. They pretty much find the God that speaks to them most clearly. Some are righteous, some are unrighteous. And their soul just knows that that's who their shepherd is. But that shepherd's not God. So you have the seven spirits of God. Those people are following God. And then you have the lesser gods, which are just souls that ended up attracting other souls. And as I said, there was a finite number of souls in each category, each nation. So when we look at something like the Native Americans, and we see that, the white man came to the United States and almost eradicated them, that was actually necessary because he only had enough souls that he wrote stories for. So it's not as if by being eradicated that they lost anything. It was the fact that God has only a finite amount of souls. Oh, there's so much here. I know so much. Please ask questions in the comments because I know I'm going to forget some major stuff. So as all the souls were settling to their chosen shepherd, there were two groups of souls that would not follow a shepherd. They wanted to follow the big giant ball of light that was God. And those two groups of souls were the Jews and the natives. Now, at first he thought, wow, they don't want any other shepherd but me. But then he started testing them and he realized some of them were sticking close to him because, well, they recognized it was advantageous to themselves. But they didn't have the devotion that it appeared. So he had these two groups, the Native Americans, mainly Americans, and the Jews. And so he broke them into tribes. Some of those tribes are righteous and some of them are more unrighteous than others. And I guess different soul types have different frequencies, like spiritual frequencies. So the Native Americans are very in alignment with God's spirit. Their spirit is at a frequency that's compatible with God's. And then some groups of people's spirits are far less compatible. And he had to do a lot of stuff with that. Let me see. Baby, what's wrong? My dog's not doing good today. So the natives and the Jewish souls, they were both put under, well, different storylines, and one got freedom and the other one got very strict rules to keep them on track. But here's the thing, we as humans can't say, we can say that some of these tribes were God's actual enemy, and some of them were his dearest souls, because when given the choice to follow anyone else, they wanted to follow him. However, there were these souls that preferred God the Father over Jesus, who then, when God made them choose between, he removed himself from the equation, they were more than happy to follow Jesus. But a lot of different people come from all these different soul groups, and only God knows where someone's from and what they did before we got here, and what their soul looks like. Souls look like almost like a fountain of light, like a firework, and they have different frequencies and different colors, and they're all different. And he wrote a story for each and every soul, each and every human soul that existed. He wrote a story for those who are conceived but never born. They have a story in the next life. His souls, nothing can be created or destroyed. So he has to eventually do something with all the souls. So the ones that can't be nice and can't be good and don't respect God will be disposed of, and then the rest get to live with the light of God present for eternity. Let me think. I know there's so much more. Like this soul breakdown is so fascinating, because pretty much whenever I see a documentary now or anything like that, I can kind of pinpoint what happened with their souls. So today we were watching a show on Sikhism. It just popped up, and the Sikhs of India, that's one of the 7 spirits of God. And he was correcting, preparing the way for people who were in India, but they weren't Hindu souls. They were followers of the light. And so Sikhism was a correction for the corruption of Hinduism. And I'm not totally sure how all the corruptions play out. Like, there was drama going down, he's saying. Oh, and some souls were taken captive by others. So he has placed some African souls in white bodies, and some white souls in Chinese bodies, and it's this vast array. Nothing is absolute. Nothing. There's always, he does it mathematically. There's mathematically inclined spectrums for everything he does. And I don't know how it ended up so perfect, but it is. And anyway, that is where why when we spread the word of Jesus Christ, we can't expect everyone to follow it because he's not everyone's shepherd. And God couldn't just place down Christianity everywhere because those souls wouldn't have, they wouldn't have gone through their story. But that's like each soul comes from a different solar system and nation and religion and frequency. So the Native Americans have a really, really high frequency, spiritual frequency. And then another group, such as the Chinese, they don't have or modern day Chinese don't have as strong a need for religion. They have a stronger need for sticking close to all their billions of souls. But there are also lots of Christians in China, so we never make assumptions or show bias. Everyone is a potential Christian, but everyone is a creation of God. So always, always, always be loving. There are a lot of souls in the world right now who will turn to Jesus in the end, and no one knows who those will be. Like, you don't know. I don't know. God doesn't even know, for they go either ways. He knows his children. He has children all over the earth. They're all the Beatitudes. They're meek, they're gentle, they're kind, they're loving. Those are always his children, and he has them everywhere. But some of them have not been exposed to the word yet. That was God's design. God doesn't make a single mistake upon the earth ever. Ever. So I know it can be like scary to think, oh, those people might not go to heaven, and God has a plan for everyone and everything. They are all his creations. We are all important to him. And he's going to bring all his children home, and he's going to bring as many other souls as he possibly can. So, once he eradicates the darkness, and when we live, our souls get lighter and lighter. And this life kind of purifies us and makes us more clear. Then when Jesus returns and God puts the darkness to sleep for a while, for 1,000 years, at the end of that 1,000 years, he's going to suck all the darkness away, and it will just be absolute joy and magnificence beyond anything a human brain can even begin to comprehend. And I've seen it. I've been to heaven many times. For a while, he had me going, and it's magnificent. I remember almost being so overwhelmed with wonderment that I almost wanted to vomit because I couldn't handle that level of beauty and majesty and joy. It was just like too much. That's what we're working towards. So God bless you all. Leave comments and questions if you have any. God bless you. Amen.